A friend of mine had a clamp break on her service dog's special harness. She has to fly out of town tomorrow, so there's not much time for sending this back to the manufacturer or to order special parts. Watch and see how I fix this. Hi, and welcome back to Pappy Tinkers. Today we're going to replace the quick disconnect clamp on this service dog's harness. Before we get started, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the things that I tinker with. Likes and comments are also appreciated, and I reply to all the comments. You can see these clamps are held on with rivets, and they aren't meant to come off or loose easily without damaging the leather. There's no room to get side cutters in between them, and just taking a grinder to the rivets is a sure way of damaging the leather. So I'm going to try to drill out the center post of the rivet. I don't know what side the post is on, so I'll drill the center of both sides with an 1/8 inch drill bits. Rivets come in different sizes, so this drill bit might be a little bit too small, but I don't want to go bigger and risk making the hole in the leather bigger. When I see that I've gone through the metal on one side, I flip it over and do the other. I can see the rivet spin, so I know I'm getting close. A few tries with the pry tool shows that it needs a little bit more material moved, so I put a carbide cutter and a rotary tool and gently cut more out. If you try this, make sure you're doing it on a bench instead of trying to hold it in your hands or lap. A little too much downward pressure and the bit will grab and go skipping across the leather or your hand. There we go. The new clamps fit perfectly on the leather. You can see there's no room for making a new hole without cutting a lot off, including the sheep's wool that protects the dog. So I'm glad I stuck with the smaller drill bit. I double checked that the clamps are oriented in the right positions and on the correct sides. As I said earlier, there wasn't time to order the correct color or style rivets for this repair, and the only ones I have on hand that'll work for this are some copper rivets. These are pretty strong and similar to the rivets used on blue jeans. Unlike the original rivets, you have to make sure these are oriented in the right direction, or the little nub that's left will rub against the dog's skin. After making sure that I have the rivet oriented in the right direction, I tap the washer down the shaft. It's a friction fit, so don't expect to be able to push it down with your fingers. There are special tools needed for these rivets, as you can see. I got this from Rocky Mountain Leather for a very reasonable price. It sets the washer and rounds the rivet head all in one tool. Plus it handles the two most common sizes. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description. And you'll also need something to use as an anvil. I'm using the back side of an anvil that I also use for setting the snaps into leather. And since this new clamp is plastic, I don't want to hammer it too hard to avoid crushing it. There just isn't a lot of extra room for the anvil. Once the washer is seated, I trim off the excess, down to about an 1/8 inch or so. Don't worry about that ugly looking cut, because that's what the other side of the rivet setting tool is for. A couple good whacks with a BFH and the copper is rounded smooth. Nothing else to do. This side is done. If you cut it a little too long, you can trim a little more off the post and round it again. I do the same to the other side where I have a little more room for the anvil. Then set the rivet, trim it, round it, and it's time for testing. It looks like everything works perfectly. So there you go. It took less than an hour to repair this, and it saved her a lot of hassle, time, and money. And I got a dozen fresh eggs out of it. Sounds like a good deal to me. So, if you like this, click that like button. And if you have any questions or comments about this repair, leave them down below. And don't forget to subscribe so you can always see what I'm tinkering with. See you next time on Pappy Tinkers.